Hi, my name is John, and before we start our discussion today, I would like to share with you a small quote or statistic that sets the tone as to what we will be speaking about today. Student loan debt rose from $350 billion to $1.3 trillion between 2004 and 2016. As of the fourth quarter of 2016, student loan debt was the second highest form of household debt, surpassed only by housing loans. It is because of this reason that I believe that a financial collapse caused by the foreclosure of student debt will occur in the future because of an exorbitant amount of student debt and the uniqueness and danger associated with that debt. We will be talking about two main points today. Number one being that the amount of student debt has surpassed an amount that is insurmountable and unsustainable. And point number two being the student debt is uniquely hazardous because of the inability to declare bankruptcy on that debt and the lack of a concrete asset to secure the loan. So for point number one, that the amount of student debt has surpassed an amount that is both irresponsible and unsustainable. The amount of student debt is rapidly approaching and even in some cases surpassing other forms of debt. According to Hangreaves, while writing for the Business Insider in 2017, the value of outstanding student debt has exploded in recent years, and debt balances have now reached $1.3 trillion in the face value, roughly the same size of other U.S. high-yield corporate bond markets. Now, why that is poignant is because we are now seeing a point in the U.S. economy where student loan debt is now surpassing other forms of debt. Student loan debt was never designed to be at a level that it is currently at, to the point where now it is costing banks more money in order to keep the debt circulating through the U.S. economy. And the second point that I would like to bring up is that student debt is also an issue that affects all demographics and is not only associated with our nation's youngest professionals. As Freeman of Forbes addresses in 2017, on a percentage basis, the largest increase of student loan debt has come from a surprising age group, 60 to 69-year-olds, who have experienced a nearly 90% increase in student loan debt. On a dollar-for-dollar basis, however, the highest increase in student loan debt is, of course, among 30 to 39-year-olds, whose group is now holding over $408 billion in student loans. Why this should be such a large red flag to the American populace and banks loaning this money is because as young professionals graduate college and want to begin their lives, they should want to acquire other assets in the forms of cars and homes and other tools to begin and start their lives. However, in previous generations, in the older age group we talked about earlier, those same principles applied. People have always wanted to get houses, people have always wanted to get cars. However, a challenge that is currently faced by our youngest generation is the fact that they now have nearly $410 billion looming over their head, on top of wanting to get cars, on top of wanting to get homes, and it makes that challenge of starting your life much more difficult. And the amount of debt compared to a former student's current income ratio is, in some cases, insurmountable. Salas of The Hill reports in 2018 that when she was carrying a student loan debt, her balance was over $130,000. Her monthly payments were just over $1,250 per month, as she quotes, a month's rent for people in the city of New York. So now, as I referenced earlier, our youngest professionals are now facing a predicament where in some cases they have to choose between paying rent and paying their student loans. It's not the best situation to be in, and it's why I believe that a crisis is occurring. For our second point, that student debt is uniquely hazardous because of both the inability to declare bankruptcy and the lack of a concrete asset to secure that loan. One point I would like to bring up is the connection between the 2008 housing market collapse and the current student loan crisis situation that we are seeing now. The connection between the 2008 housing market collapse and the current student debt crisis is becoming stronger and stronger as time passes. As shown in the New York Times article, Martin states in 2017 that Mr. Date linked the excessive student debt borrowing to risky mortgages. And in the housing bubble, before the economic collapse, the extraordinary growth in student loans caught many by surprise. Why this should be so poignant is because the United States just recovered from one of the worst financial crises in its history, where millions of people lost their jobs and even more lost their homes. And it took this this country some time to fully recuperate from that, and in my opinion, we are still recuperating. You are seeing similarities between that financial crisis and the current financial crisis in student loans that we are seeing today. The debt in student loans is also fundamentally different from other forms of debt, such as auto loans or mortgages or even credit card loans. With these loans, a concrete asset secures a portion of the original loan, unlike student debt, which cannot be sold back to the originating source. According to Student Loan Hero, written by their staff in 2014, a student loan, on the other hand, is an unsecured debt that the bank cannot seize, and cannot seize your house or car if you fail behind on student loan payments. Why that is so poignant and why that is such a big issue is because if I were to default on a car payment loan, the bank could come back and seize that vehicle that I would still owe on. If I stop paying my mortgage, the bank could come and seize my house and recuperate some of the losses that they loaned me, when they loaned the original money. However, with student loans, this is not the case. A degree is tied to an individual. So if I am loaned $100,000 to go to a college and I complete my degree, I am now expected to pay that money back with interest. If I stop paying my money and just foreclose on my loan, there's nothing the bank can take. They cannot take that degree and sell it to another individual, or a debt collecting agency cannot take that degree from me because it is married to me. It is how these loans fundamentally differ from other car loans or mortgages or even credit card debt. And finally, student loans are also dangerously unique because of the borrower's near inability to declare bankruptcy on the original loan. This fundamentally differs from other forms of debt, including auto, mortgage, and credit card loans. Dicker of CNBC in 2017 writes, "As of now, it is nearly impossible to discharge student loans in bankruptcy. The problem of undue hardship was never clearly defined, and the case law has never been held to a standard definition." When the legislation was originally written, as Dicker of CNBC quotes, he says that when a student or a former student, experiences undue hardship, they could potentially declare bankruptcy on their loan. However, in the legislation that is written behind these student loans, that standard was never clearly defined. And because of that, banks can get away with not upholding that standard because it is up to their interpretation. This is how it fundamentally differs from credit cards or mortgages or other forms of loans where you can file for bankruptcy and liquidate your assets. The final point that I would like to bring up is in reference to the chart placed here. This chart was gathered from NerdWallet, written by Nickel in 2017. As you can see in the chart, the percentage of borrowers that were originally lent money by either banks or the federal government that ultimately pay back their student loans keeps decreasing as time progresses. Why this should be such an indicator of a financial crisis occurring is because if enough people stop paying their loans and stop paying their monthly payments on the original money that they were lent, the system as a whole crashes. As you can see, as time progresses, this trend keeps getting more and more pronounced. If enough people just decide not to pay back their student loans, this country is going to face some bigger problems from the 2008 housing market collapse. And to conclude, because of the points summarized and because of the research stated, I believe that a financial crisis caused by the foreclosure of student debt will occur because of an exuberant amount of student debt and the uniqueness associated with that debt. I believe that future university and college students alike should seriously consider their future before taking on large amounts of debt to ensure financial success in themselves as well as the nation. I want to thank you for viewing this presentation and thank you for giving me your time. Have a wonderful day.